when it comes to Grafted, it's a body horror film that's very reliant on its visuals. To summarize, Wei has always been a daddy's girl, so it's only right that she decided to be a scientist like her father. However, with her dad's work being considered unethical, outside of bounds of what's considered legal to do, and her continuing the experiment that killed him posing a challenge, it makes trying to honor her father's legacy difficult. And with her moving to New Zealand to live with her aunt and cousin, going to university and dealing with a professor that potentially wants to steal her father's life's work, we see Wei do a lot in order to not only honor her father, but take back his research and, in some cases, unfortunately stumble in ways that make it so she may never be able to complete what she started. So getting to the review section, when it comes to the characters, honestly, it's quite difficult to get invested in any of them, and that's because even though Wei is Chinese and you can see some parts of her culture coming with her, she's very much a wallflower, and in the pursuit of honoring her father, it feels like we barely get to know her. And then we come to people outside of Wei, it doesn't really dive deep into what her cousin deals with being someone who's Chinese, but at the same time has either willingly or been forced to assimilate. There is somebody who's part of her cousin's group that's Tongan, but we don't fully get to know her backstory and everything that kind of came to be for her, because she wants to be Wei's friend, but you can see there's also this pull of her wanting to still be assimilated or integrated, whichever way you want to put it. And because of that push and pull, we don't get characters who feel like they're there for more than being potential fodder for Wei's experiments, if not victims, as Wei stumbles to try to complete her father's work. Now, getting to world building culture, as we touched upon, we get a taste of it. The Wei definitely presents some sense of what it means to be Chinese in terms of her having this altar for her father, and we also get the Tongan girl who was just mentioned in terms of speaking on what it's like to be foreign in a country yet somehow accepted in some ways. I mean, again, the film has no real desire to get that deep when it comes to its characters, so while it does touch upon that, hey, these people are different, it doesn't really integrate that into the main storyline with what Wei's going through in order to really give this film the type of depth that it desperately needed. For when you get into the story and pacing of it all, because of that singular focus, it eventually becomes clear there's very little room for anything else. And it makes it so the story feels way too long for what it needs to do. And as much as you recognize it needed to bring in different people in order to kind of up the stakes, unfortunately, it seems with each additional addition, it just makes the story feel slower and makes it really clear that when it comes to Grafted, all it really has to offer you is body horror. And in terms of the hooks and whether this is worth watching again, not really. When it comes to Grafted, you don't get some Cronenberg level body horror. You don't even get something on the level of The Substance where it has depth beyond the visuals. What you get is something that may be a little gross, but it's not something that, as Wei goes further and further with her experiments, it can really get you just by looking at what she's doing as she cuts off flesh and tries to fuse it and all this other stuff. And granted, yes, am I flinching because remembering that kind of makes me kind of, yes, but it's not the type of stuff where you months, maybe years down the line, are referencing this movie because of what you saw. It's just one of those things that, like an old bump on your hand or arm or whatever, because a bug bit you, you kind of get the itch when you think about it, but otherwise, it's something that after a certain point you're going to move on from. It's not going to be a notable part of your memory, which is why overall we feel very mixed when it comes to this film. Yes, It does have a certain level of ick factor when it comes to Way's experiments that makes it so the body horror can be considered a selling point, but in terms of you getting invested in the characters to the point of caring if they live or die, in terms of the story potentially building up to these notable moments where Way's experiments get bigger and bigger and she kind of stumbles more and more to the point where it's hard to say whether or not she'll live or die. Maybe the cops are going to get her or whatever. It doesn't take you on a journey that makes you care about all those different factors. All you really may take note of is how gross things get. And if you're somebody who's really into body horror, you'll be set, you'll be happy. If you're someone who's not as into body horror, it's gonna just make you feel that you kind of wasted an hour and a half.